Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fortnite story. I'm joined alongside an analyst, content creator, caster, does a lot of different things, power lifter.
Ooh,
Welcome Reisshub. How you doing, man?
yo, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. This is like the start of my career. Speaking to you on a podcast, it's throwing me back.
Oh, doing it with One Up a really
Doing
long
it with
time
One Up,
ago.
man. Man, I miss my boy One Up. I tell you that. Would you see? Do you still see him anytime?
I've spoken to One Up occasionally.
Hmm.
Actually, he saw me doing the Saudi tournament, and he reached out to me.
Oh,
He's like,
cool.
"Yo, what the hell? Like, you're still doing this stuff?" Like,
Yeah,
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 man. Um,
yeah. We still in it, man. I know you're gone. We still here.
But yeah, for you guys that don't know, One Up Analytics was like Kinch Analytics before
Hmm.
Kinch was Kinch. So maybe they're the same person. He just turned British. Um,
I've seen both of their faces, and I know that unless one of them's masking up, it's hard to say.
all right, so let's start off with you, Reese. How did you get started in Fortnite? You know, we're both adults playing
Yeah,
a
yeah.
children's game. How did you get into this?
uh, Into playing was funny because I was like I'd taken a bit of a break from like gaming for a long time because I was working, that adult life, man. You ain't got the time for it that much. And I'd been into games like my whole life, mainly like Pokemon, RuneScape, Zelda, Halo. All these games were like my go-tos. And I just remember hearing a bunch of stuff repeatedly over and over about the game Fortnite. Oh yeah, it's Fortnite game, and I was like, spoke to my flatmate Sandy about it. He wasn't sold. I was like, okay, no, okay, not that sold on it. That's fine. But then I messaged my friend Tom because I saw him playing it on Xbox at the time, and he was like, it's free. It's free. So I downloaded it right then. It was like I think roughly towards the end of like season 3 of chapter 1. I was like, cool, time to get started. Played 10 games. Took me 10 games to get my first kill. It was absolutely, I was so bad at it, but I was like hooked like that.
Okay. And then how'd you decide to even want to turn this into a career? Because now you've been doing this full time for how long?
2 years now. 2 years. Well, technically
Congratulations.
about two. Yeah, yeah, no, actually, now that I look at the date, 2 years. Because well, it was all kind of coincidental because I originally started on Reddit as most other people do that analyze the game. Reddit crew checking in, and I was just like, it fucking sucked. There's the first swear of the podcast, but it needed to be said for the to start with. It sucked, right? And I was like, okay, I was helping people in the comments already. Like people were asking questions, and I was like, I say helping. I was trying to help them. I didn't really have that good of an understanding at the time. This would be like late 2019, and I was just kind of thought, man, rather than doing all this, I should just put this in a video. Like rather than I was spending like an hour typing up like a massive big paragraphs to people who most of the time didn't even respond because they were just like made a post. And I was like, I could spend all this time making like short little videos instead. So I started like putting little clips up, not even like full length videos or anything like that. And they started to do really good. And I was like, okay, so I started uploading on my own YouTube at the same time. And they were like literally 1 minute tips and small little tricks and things like that. And it started going good. And the YouTube started to do well. And then the first real video I did, I was like, I want to crack at some of these VOD reviews, like a proper, in-depth, analytical video. And because Bala was basically the only one doing it at the time, I know Destiny's Jesus was still doing analytical stuff, but he wasn't really doing that specific VOD review style. And all of the analytical shit was just like long, It was like here's a like Bala would do like here's an hour and a half VOD, and
Yeah.
I love those videos. They were amazing, but I was like, some people aren't going to watch a full hour and a half. So I said, right, I'm going to condense like a whole tournament into like 6 games or something like that. And that one did really good straight away. It was like 1,000 something views, maybe 2K views or something like that. And so I did another one, and it ended up being like a console video that at the time was banging, and it hit like 10K views like instantly. I think the channel after like 2 proper videos was at like 1.5K views or subs or something like that. I was like, okay, this is being received very well. So and then I just kind of kept at it from there on. People kept like shouting out the videos because they were different, and now I'm still doing the same thing.
Just much better at it now.
Yeah, much. Well, I hope so. I do look back at those older videos though, and I was like, man, I was nuts. Like because I didn't know anything, so I would just like spend a week solid. I'd wake up at like 9 in the morning, and it was since it was like lockdown. couldn't go out do anything, and I wasn't working at that time because I was on government pay because of lockdowns and stuff. So I was literally 9 o'clock till like in the morning till like 11 o'clock at night, just like making videos all day, and that was it. It was extremely unhealthy, but I learned like so much over like those couple months.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell the quality of your videos is very impressive. I think
Thank you.
you've set the standard for like a competitive Fortnite video.
Yeah.
And from what you just said, like the Balla long, just VOD
Mm.
style, and then Monster was doing those similar, just like full game
Yeah,
VOD
yeah.
styles. But condensing that down and making it digestible, I think is the biggest value that you've brought. It's not simply you're providing analysis because there already was that analysis, but you're
Definitely.
making it easy for people to understand, and you're pointing out like difficult things, but then
Mhm.
making them simple or simple enough for like most people to figure out. Okay, like that makes sense. They
That
did this
works.
and that. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
always been the goal. Kind of like just that has just been the goal. Like I always wanted to make like the sickest video. I wanted to make a video at that time where someone was just be like, You have to watch this. Like this is so cool. You have to watch this." And at the time, I thought it was all like the editing will do that, but in reality, it's just like all of the stuff combined that'll make it awesome. But yeah, I learned a lot early on. Let's say it.
well, and you do everything right because
Yeah,
like thumbnail, title,
yeah.
all the YouTube stuff, the editing.
All the like notes, the scripting, the writing, from start to finish. Yeah. So that process has developed a lot over that time, though. I tell you that much.
That's impressive, man. Because
Thank you.
I mean, I've had people ask me like, "Oh, who does Reese have edit their videos?" Like, bro, he does that all himself.
Mhm.
Um,
It's better in my eyes if you do, because I know when I started, like I didn't know how to edit videos, but I knew what a rubbish video looked like. So when I made one, I was like, okay, I watched it back and I instantly was just like, okay, this bit's looks bad. This bit looks bad, and it was pretty fast in order to improve that. And early on, I had this thought process where I was like, every video I make, I'm just gonna learn one thing about like making videos. And after 50 videos, like after like the first year or something like that, I was like, okay, I know how to edit now. Cool. And even though it started like it looked good, I actually was just like following tutorials on like one small thing, like how to make professional looking text. Then figure that one out. Cool. This video has some cool text, transitions, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just like all of those small things added up a lot.
yeah, I remember you telling me that a long time ago because I've
Yeah,
asked
yeah.
you for like different help and advice, and that's something that's helped me as well. And
Uh-huh.
within the competitive Fortnite space, it is very particular to have an
Mhm.
editor that knows what they're doing. And
Definitely.
I'm sure you've tried to find somebody that could properly do what's going on, and it's
Yes.
not like
There's
most
one guy.
editors.
There's
Who's
one
the
guy I know, and his name's Nolar, the man, but he works for Blast,
ah
doing all of their stuff, so all the cool videos you see there. So I wanted to hire him because what I wanted to do is during FNCS time when I'm away, like I don't have as much time. I need to prep for videos, so I was like, get this man on board, help edit them while I'm away, so I can keep up more consistent videos for like the month I'm away or however long it is. But he also at that time he's busier because he's doing Blast stuff, so the schedules didn't align. But like he's probably the only person I've found so far that I could trust with edit. Like because for me, I want to just like here's my idea, give him it. Because if not, it'll take me longer just to write up my like what I want them to do. I might as well just edit it.
yeah.
Might as well just do that myself then. And that so I need someone who understands the game analytically, can edit, and also understands like pacing, storyline, all like how to actually keep people interested in a video, which those people are A, just expensive if they do understand that, or B, just don't exist in Fortnite.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Or they're doing like the casual style and don't necessarily understand
Yeah.
the analytical content, which is not very easy. It's a niche
No,
part of Fortnite.
it is. And like the community's, the community's not that small, but like the community's small for people who understand stuff. So, trying to find someone who also can edit and also won't break the bank is almost impossible.
Well, and you just put out a video. If you guys are listening to this, we're recording on the 18th of August. A casual versus competitive Fortnite debate is
Yeah.
stupid.
Yes.
What led you to make that video? Because I know you're always like tinkering, trying to figure out what's going on, and this
Yeah.
seems like another good one from you.
So this isn't even a Fortnite thing, which is interesting because I actually the idea for this video came from a Jake Lucky tweet where it was an Apex Legends. So there's a big debate in Apex Legends right now about how the game's balanced and how it isn't. It just reminded me. I was like, man, that debate's real stupid. Like I've heard this so many times in Fortnite. And then as I said that sentence, I was like, hey, that's a good title. So that one kind of more came out of the air. A lot of the other ones though are just like if I ever see a tweet on something, I write it down. Like I have a document of just like tons of video ideas. Most of them horrible, just atrocious ideas that people wouldn't care about. But I've made a bunch of those videos into videos that people do actually care about. But it's just trying to write any small thing that people you see are interested in. You're like, I could talk about that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I had Fatch on earlier this week, and I
Yeah.
was talking to him about the whole like balancing for fun versus balancing
Yeah.
for competitive. And it's interesting because like in Fortnite, we've been doing this for 4 years now. Like that conversation just cycles. Someone will bring up
All the
one
time.
item or competitive, and people complain about one side. They get the other side, start complaining about that side. It goes nowhere.
Ever. It never does. And like Epic towards the end of chapter 2 we're doing a really good job of it. Like if you played chapter 2 season 8 or 7 and then like in a competitive match and then you played pubs, it was different. It was completely different. There's aliens in chapter 2 season 7, like all those other guns that were taken out, and like the comp loop pool was really balanced, and that was looking good. And then obviously with chapter 3, obviously a lot of the comp community was not so happy about SMGs and the way that changed. But I don't necessarily think that's as outside of the combat SMG that was in obviously chapter 3 season 2. I don't think like the rest is much of a problem because it more seems to be like, hey, these are the guns that are there. We're not going to change all the ones from like another chapter just for the competitive side, which kind of sucks because obviously a lot of the community love that stuff. But at the same time, it might happen in the future, it might not. At the end of the day, we work with what we got from the comp. I do think it would be cool if the comp could just have like, hey, here's all the guns that are good and fit and are balanced for competitive. Here's all the utility, here's all the heals. And then even if that just like changes season to season, but it's like within a select pool and it is different from the casual mode, I think that would work good.
Yeah, bring back the charge shotgun. Is what you just
Bro,
said.
I'm a charge fan. Me
Let's
and you
go.
are line up. Don't worry. That's as long as it's not the only like high damage in shotgun. I still think the best meta we've ever had shotgun wise was pump charge. It was because then both of them were super viable and could chunk big damage, played differently around each other. You never felt like, oh, I've got a rubbish shotgun.
Yeah, I like the attack charge. That was probably my favorite.
Controller player mindset right here.
That's right. Well, hey, even Mr. Savage was dominating with the attack. Like he was one of the few players deciding to use that. But I like the balance.
But it's like the purple and the gold. You just stand at someone's wall and just you don't just shoot reload. It's just it was not smart weapon. So underneath the purple and the gold, I'm with you. But as soon as it hit like the purple and gold, like it was just way too strong.
Yeah, we essentially have the attack now. It's just called the auto. Everyone
Yeah,
still
exactly.
calls it attack.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. You see some people use it, and so many people still haven't figured out how nuts it is.
Yeah, just two tack people ahead. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that we're talking more about Fortnite, I feel like FNCS is the next logical step here. We just finished.
Yeah.
You were out on the broadcast in studio in Copenhagen covering it, and you put out one of your notes, but blurred out, with all the stuff you've done. You can't share the secret sauce, but
can't share the secrets, man. That's the good stuff,
How do you prepare? Like, just tell people how you prepare, because I've heard this and it is crazy how much effort you put into this.
Okay, so let's rewind the clocks for a second here. Think about what I told you about making the YouTube videos at the start, right? Where I wake up in the morning, I had nothing to do. I just made YouTube videos all day, and it consumed my life. and then now have a look at my YouTube and be like, he's only uploading once every week or maybe every 2 weeks or something like that. While FNCS on is because it's the same thing, yet just for FNCS now. Like my prep, the biggest issue with Fortnite is that there's no easy way to understand storylines and teams. You just have to literally go into every player's Twitter, their gameplay, and the VODs themselves. You have to do so much manual work because there's like, it's not like sports or like other esports where there's like stats websites and all of this stuff and details you can look through. It's literally just you have to do every single thing yourself. So for me, it depends on what it is. At the start of a season, I always have like notes on teams coming in on cash cups, and I just add to it as the season goes on. And then when FNCS starts, it kind of depends on the schedule because if there's a day to prep, then I have the day to prep. Awesome. If there's an hour to prep, I'm just like throughout that week before that, I'm just picking teams, watching their VODs, just like hoping they qualify, trying to figure out like what their team's strengths are, their weaknesses are, any relevant storylines, ex teammates, yada yada yada. And then come for like finals. If there's, say this time we had 3 weeks between, which was amazing. I fully nerded out in the 3 weeks because it allowed me to actually VOD review like almost every single team in there. Like watch at least like one or two games from each people. So like in that week, I probably did like 100 and maybe just let's just say 100 like VODs of all the
Okay.
teams from somewhere. And the amount of like just cool little tidbits you get from that is super useful. And then you start finding trends. If you've done it season after season, week after week, you start building on stuff, and it all adds up. So like I have some a pretty advanced level of Excel notes that go back for mainly just this chapter. I need to find all the ones that I did last chapter, but like I really started pulling them together into one thing in like the start of this. So and it was like, so one of the weeks that I was away between when in that 3 week break, I was at home visiting family and like I had my laptop. So I was like, I wake up in the morning, sitting, studying. My mom's like, yo, I know you're home. You just gonna do some work? And I was like, look, I know I'm at home for a week, but like I was working until, say like 6, 7, 8 at night. And then I'd like hang out and chill. Not all the time, not all the days, of course, but it's like, although I was having a break, I still needed to sit and do all the study, do the work. And it's a lot, but by the time it comes to like, say, being on stage in finals and you just have like 900 talking points, it's like, this is pretty awesome. I could stand up there and fill for the entire 3 hours if I needed to, just chatting about the teams from what I know. And that becomes extremely valuable. So I've just never regretted, but I put a lot of work into it, and it hopefully pays off.
Well, I think you could tell. I mean, just
Mm,
listening to you talk about the game, there's no waver in your confidence. And then
mm.
you talk about things, typically they wind up happening, which makes you look really good. But it's
That's the
because
goal. Yeah.
you're putting in that effort. And I feel like up until you, like, to be honest, Vivid, I know puts in a lot of effort as well, hitting the VODs, and I may piss some people off, but like you two stand out as like the
Mm,
most knowledgeable people.
yeah.
And clearly put in the effort. I mean, there are other people they put in effort, but as far as hitting VODs, maybe Levin can be thrown in
Yeah,
there
Levin,
too.
Levin does. He's another one who like goes deep with it. He does it in a different way because he has his obviously he focuses on player storyline stuff like that. But the amount of time he's been in the VODs the last 2 seasons has been sick. And he was play by play casting this time, and he was didn't get to show as much of that this season. Because that wasn't his role, but last season when he was color casting with Shio, like you could hear it come out all the time, and it was fantastic. Like, and that really pays off. And like I said, it's the difficulty is that it's all just manual work. You have to just sit and watch every game. Replay is slow. It's clunky. It's it takes a lot of time to do it. So it's like not everyone's worth it to do that. And the thing is, like, I've had seasons where I just like showed up, and you can do it. You can talk, but it's like what's coming out your mouth most of the time isn't as useful. So, and that's not what my goal is.
Yeah, you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just listening to you guys in particular, you do a great job of explaining the game. And as someone that appreciates the game, I appreciate that and the effort you guys put in. Obviously, it is a ton of manual labor, but you don't get paid to put in all that manual labor. You just get to get paid to show up on game day. Essentially, is what it is. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get paid for the practice.
I
So,
I argue that my prep isn't counted in my rate. That's
all
but still,
right.
it is the way it is. It's you are correct though. It's you only get paid per day, and some people just show up. And I've never been a fan of that personally. Call me an elitist all you want, but I want the best for the broadcast. I want people to know their stuff. I want it to come out like I want to hear something and be like, wow, I haven't thought of that, you know? And that's actually one of the things that I've said a lot when I was working with Levin and when I was working with Minnie as well. In particular, when I worked with Levin, like I would finish a sentence. I'd be like, what's he going to say? I was like, I don't know what this guy's going to say next. You know, I was like, he always has like a really interesting spin on everything because he has the knowledge and then just also has like a cool thought process about everything. So,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that I really like from just an esports perspective and just from my own enjoyment and understanding of the game, similar to you.
Yeah, same. Getting to talk to Levin in particular, when we
Mm,
were in Saudi Arabia, was really cool because he has
yeah.
all those player insights. 'Cause he's just constantly
Yeah.
talking to them, and so he's not guessing what they're doing. Like you and I
Mhm.
sometimes we're VOD reviewing, trying to guess what's going
Uh-huh.
on, but like he's like, "Oh no, 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 they do this, and this was their game plan." They went back, looked at it. They didn't want to do this, and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Holy shit! Like that is really cool to have and
Super valuable.
invaluable."
Yeah, I think now, like, I would say until we went into person, a lot of the players, it's not that they didn't respect us as much. That's not the right way I'll put it. I just don't think they cared as much, right? And, they were never doing content on the broadcast, never did anything. And as soon as the V-Bucks show up for paying for it, like, obviously everyone's up, everyone's doing different stuff like that now. And I think now, like, a lot of the comp communities is much more like, even though, like, the viewers have declined, the actual competitive like player base is much more fond of the broadcast and the stuff that like FN Comp is doing, which is cool. And I think that also helps us interact with the players more and get more into like storylines and bits and bobs like that, little tidbits from them. And Levin's obviously one of the biggest of well biggest people because he's 6'8", but also the biggest proponents of that of just chatting to people.
Yeah, the community being receptive is huge. I mean, you just think about any other esport or any other game. It's
Mm,
a lot easier to get those insights. It's 5 on 5. I mean,
yep.
soccer, American football, 11 on 11. So, like, that is a quarter of a
Mm,
population for just a singular Fortnite lobby. So, having access to those people and being able to speak to them, get those
mm.
insights, having those communications pre and post game, which is fairly regular in sports, is not something we get within Fortnite,
No.
but I think has started to improve. And now, like you just mentioned, the receptiveness from the
Mhm.
players and that communication back and forth is starting to overall become better, which is really cool. You seem like in the middle of that, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. But I'm just very excited about the fact that everyone likes it because, like, I remembered what it was. Like, it's come back to me at that point. You're saying you have to prep for 100 people, 50 teams of his duos, and the biggest problem with that is in sports, like, how long do you have to when you understand like a football match is going on? Like in beforehand, how long would you have to prep? Look at the storylines, look at the teams, all that stuff. In Fortnite, it's like. We were lucky this time with finals. We got 3 weeks, but semi-finals, like or some qualifiers, it's an hour, and it's an hour before the games start. But we still have to go live after like 35 minutes after the queues are over. So it's like, what prep time do you have for that? You just need to know the stories. You need to know 100 people and just hope for the best.
Yeah, it's definitely something that
Unreasonable, but it's not unreasonable in a way that like, oh, we're being forced to do this, but it's like it's just in comparison to anything else, as far as I'm aware, it's just like an unbelievable amount of work just to understand it in the moment.
well, it's an impossible task to truly take
Yeah.
in everything that just, for example, happened in a round three,
Hmm.
finishes at 25 on the hour, and then at 35 minutes later, the next
Hmm.
game is gonna start queuing, and it's like, okay, we had 300, 250 players. We're trying, or teams, 500
Hmm.
players. We're trying to narrow that down now to 50, and there's always teams that make it, and you have no idea who they are, and
And
it's
they always win a
unfortunate.
game.
Yeah,
They
it's
always win a game, and I'm like, I don't have anything on these guys, man. And then I just have to talk about how they won the match, which is obviously relevant. But like, if you just watched it, like, I don't want to be that guy who's also been like, I'm just saying what happened again.
yeah, reading what's on a screen.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you got to do that, but that's not the goal.
Definitely. How'd you feel about this FNCS? Like, as far as the actual play, and we had Giannis Vidal take it home, and pretty much the entire top 10 was almost as projected. Like, if you picked the top 10 in Europe, it was probably most of those teams. So, like, how was your? We'll start with Europe for you. Like, how was your experience?
Europe's been, it was an interesting one because like the biggest turn for me was just like how contested messes people up. Because when I started the season, I was like, Champix and Tayson are going to win this FNCS. That was just it. I just said they're going to win. When you look how good they were at the start of the season, I was just like, these guys are just unbelievable. And then they're contested off spawn by XWs and Podosai, and I'm like, well, that's over. So I was like, the main, I don't want to say the main storyline in my eyes, but like the main projection was kind of ruined by just an unfortunate circumstance. Another team qualified at that drop spot. They know it. They're not going to leave, So immediately I was like, damn. I wanted to see the Tayson Chapix win, but unfortunately that storyline wasn't going to be there. So, when you start to look at the rest of the teams, I feel like it was really top heavy. You said the top 10 predictions came through and it was easy to predict. I did the top 10 predictions. I got 7 of them right. Like not right in the orders, but like I got 7 out of the top 10 correct. And I don't know if I've ever got that many right, but I think it was just like easier to predict. I don't know really if it's because more like top players aren't playing anymore, or if it's just duos and I feel like there's not as many top teams. But this FNCS definitely did feel a little top heavy in comparison to the rest, which is odd for EU.
It definitely is, because there's that massive player base and you have so many teams typically that are able to compete at that highest level, which, say what you want about other regions, it's not there. There's typically that top heaviness in every other region. I mean, NA East is the best, but I still only think, there was going to be 5 teams that could win FNCS this season. So in Europe, it's, 10 at least, typically, if not more. And, we see players start to get that recognition of how to play the game and how to separate themselves from everyone else, because now we're at a point where everyone is so good. Like, all the players have become incredible at this game, and it is more the mental aspect and the strategy and planning which has separated teams rather than the physical mechanics of the game. And I think Giannis and Vidal have exemplified that in this FNCS. I mean, you saw Vino on Twitter leaking their strats, but genuinely
that was Vino's strat from the season before. That's why they're using like mobility around the edge of the map. That was their strat from the year before, or the season before, which is, so it's the same stuff really.
Yeah, just taking a play out of the previous winner's playbook and adapting it.
But it is like, I think we're seeing a point now where, so I have this kind of theory with every new chapter. It's only been 2, so it's it's pretty small sample size. But you nearly always see like a big turnover of players. It's a new map. It's new motivations for a lot of players, and it's an opportunity for a lot of people to either come up or fall off. And I think now we've seen who is actually going to stick around this season based on like a new chapter. We've seen a bunch of names, like on EU, like, Vico's been grinding crazy hard, Malabuka Mustache, all these people who have been putting in a ton of work are showing up repeatedly, like season after season. And then you have like the players who've been around for a lot longer, like that, the Vidal, the Janices, the Tayson Chapix, all of these big names who have been around for so long are basically the only people who are still putting in work day after day after day, and they're staying on top. It's like, when I look at the top of the leaderboard, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some teams in there who just don't put in work at all and just still looking by. But every single season, you see those teams fall off. The teams who stop putting in work, who aren't looking good, who don't have a good understanding of the game, they just do not place in finals.
And the coolest thing about this FNCS was all that time. You mentioned it from a broadcast perspective, but from the player's perspective, now you have all that time to be like, okay, I can perfect my game. I can learn from other players. I can learn how to counter what other players are doing. And it gave that extra level, which I don't know that I want a 3-week gap before finals every single time, but
well,
a 2
you have a 3-month gap between the FCS Invitational, so there's a lot of time for that.
But nonetheless, I mean, I think that was really impressive to see,
Hmm.
especially like what you just mentioned, the effort players put in, whether it be vodding, whether it be playing, practicing, and just showing the efforts then put up on a leaderboard in the games at the end of the day. To me, I respect that. It's not just
Definitely.
someone walking up, doing a job, and going home.
I mean, that's also how I want the game to look in a sense. Like, I don't want to say it's more standardized where I want like, oh, I want all these teams to always make it and stuff like that. But I want it so that players have time to prep. I want it so that you get these teams at their best. It's a set lobby. I want it to feel like a set lobby. Sometimes when it's a 1 hour qualification, like we said, it doesn't feel like a set lobby. It feels like madness. I want teams to have sat and thought about what they're going to do, how they're going to counter their strats, because that's when you actually start to see really interesting things happen.
And this chapter, I feel like more so than any, players have been working with coaches. And
I
up
agree.
until
Yeah.
recently, coaches haven't really been respected. There's been a few that have been doing it for a while and have been doing a good job. But now more than ever, I feel like all of the top teams have a coach, have somebody they work with to help them out. And then speaking to players about it, having that third party perspective has been huge in the way that they're able to understand the game, the way they're able to understand their own gameplay. Because, I mean, I talked to Fatch and Nani recently, and their ability to have that third party, it's not you and I now arguing about what we
Yeah.
think was the right thing. It's, I saw what happened. Here is what needs to happen. I don't care what either of you think. This was the right play. And,
Mhm.
there's a few guys out there that are really good at what they do to be able to have that respect from players to tell them, no, you are wrong. Like, learn from this and get better. Sven is one of the big ones that, stands
Definitely.
out to me. BloodX seems to not like to call himself a coach, but
Yeah,
also
nah, you just call him the best coach. Just don't call him a mentor. Call him the coach. But yeah,
what's
no, it's true, and I think like I'm surprised it took this long. Quite frankly, it's maybe because there's not that many coaches who have like big enough accolades to be able to do it. Maybe it's because the player base is young; they don't like listening to someone. Uh, you know, but at the end of the day, you can only do so much prep. If you're playing a ton, like you know how much these players play every day, you don't also have the time to sit back in the VODs to the same extent. Like you can't do like 4 hours watching other people's gameplay a day. Now that's obviously that would be a lot, but a coach can do that. They can sit there and figure out the teams around you, what you're doing wrong. They can have so many different avenues that you can't simply do. And they can take that stress off of you and just allow you to play the game, to try and do the thing you're good at.
and speaking to different people and just seeing what happens this season, people have learned to be more particular and
Mm.
what's the word I'm looking for? They're doing things other than just simply playing the game. They're being
Yes.
I can't think of freaking.
Diligent.
No, that's not
No? Oh, that's a good word though.
specific. That's what it is. They're being specific in the different actions they're doing within the game rather than just going and playing scrims for 10 hours. Now, you
Yeah,
may
yeah.
only get scrims for 2 to 4 hours a day, and you have to be very specific in your practice, which I think has helped.
It's intent. It's like
That's it.
practicing anything. As soon as you started talking, I was like, he's not talking about specific. This man's on his intent grind. No, it's intention, right? Like if you want to get good at something, a particular skill, a particular knowledge, you have to practice whatever it is. Like you're not going to get good at juggling by throwing. It's just not going to work. So you have to, if you want to get good at scrims, if you want to get good at end game, if you want to learn how to fight, if you want to learn your mechanics, whatever it is, you need to actually practice that specific thing.
Agreed. And coaches help with that. They
Coaches help
definitely.
a lot. They can
Um,
they can tell you suck at something. Be like, yo, do this. Okay, fair
yeah.
enough. As long as you not got too big an ego and you understand to listen to them, you'll fly high as a player.
Is there anyone that surprised you? Did you watch NA East as well?
I went to bed.
Okay.
I
Um,
my sleeping schedule after being ill was so bad that I went to bed straight away. I've gone back and I'm watching today. I've been watching Commandment and Avery's games just to work on a video and for invitational prep as well. And I but I've not looked at like the rest of the leaderboard from any. Let me open it up. Let me see. Now that I've got it, I'll open up on this screen. Let's have a look. What we got?
Commandment and Avery were interesting because they were like constantly behind on Surge and then somehow
Yeah.
managed to make it work like every game.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the notes I wrote down is like these guys don't have a good mid game. That was the biggest part of it. Where I said they were the way that they positioned themselves in mid game was just like there was no one like they were on hills, but they weren't on hills that players were rotating past. It seemed like they didn't have like a plan on the teams rotating around them, which was interesting. But it did work. They just kept fighting someone like at fourth or fifth zone, and they just kept above the other thresholds before that repeatedly. I've only watched 3 games of them so far, so it's like I can't speak for every single match, but that was kind of the trend I saw from them. When I look at the rest of the leaderboard, I mean, in the top 10, that's like, not really. That seems like basically the most, I want to say, standard NA East teams I could think of. Like Mirobuga second. I know they were contested off spawn and had a bunch of North zones as well. So that's very impressive from them to still be second and almost win. Pamsu and Fatch have been really good, especially working with Sven, who we just said. Duke and Clicks, they've been, I can't say if they've been good, I've not followed them, but big names. Adrius Canada choked, should have won. Peterbot Baila, last season champion. It's like Acorn Edgy did really good in Saudi. It's like there's a lot of just like top names in the top already. Is there anyone who surprised you when you were there or when you watched it?
Honestly, Pamstu and Fatch. They've always
Yeah?
kind of been a top 10 team, but never
Agreed, yeah.
really been like a top 5, top 3 team. And to see them, I mean, they were 2 elims away from winning FNCS.
Yeah.
They were Bugad Miro falling a couple places before and Commandment not pulling a clutch out of his ass. And like I mentioned, I just talked to Fatch and he thought they won. They won the last match.
Yeah, I watched it. I did go back and watch the final game because I heard everyone say how crazy it was. And I watched them win that final game. That must be devastating.
Yeah, he said they felt like they won the whole tournament because they won that game. And then they checked the leaderboard, and not only are they not second, they're third, which, that's got to be a kick in the nuts.
That's brutal. And you know what's funny is like, there's a trend I'm seeing with like Miro and Buga that they always choke the final game. Like I remember back to chapter 2, season 8, was it Grand Royale? Either Grand Royale or I think it was Grand Royale.
It was.
Where when it was trios with Jukes and they struggled with Surge in that final game, lost Miro, rebooted him, and then had like the most crazy, like it was like fourth or fifth zone fight, and like the one elim they got put them above the points to win it all or something like that. And I was like, I keep seeing a trend of these guys going down early and in the last game, which is something I'm going to keep an eye out in the future.
Okay. That could be a big call out come Invitational.
Hey, man, if you're hearing it here first. If they choke the last game, I've predicted it ahead of time.
Yeah,
I
normally
don't want them to, but yeah.
Normally they have a big enough lead going into that last game, but Commandment and Avery were right on their heels. You mentioned Duke and Clicks. That was another team that I was really impressed with over the course of the season. They weren't good to start the season. Like just straight up not good, but getting better each qualifier was something that you saw, and they became a team with a game plan, not just playing the game. Towards the end of the season, you saw it. Like there was a clear strategy and intention for them to play a low ground style, which Clicks had never really had, in my opinion, any kind of strategy to his game.
No, not a chance.
Crazy,
especially like so he was working with BloodX last season. I don't know if he has been this season. I'm not
he has
taken in. He has been. Okay, so he's been working on this season well. So that development makes sense. I watched him when he was playing with Day last season, and that hurt my brain a lot more, to be honest, from Day's perspective than from Clicks' perspective, because I could tell that Clicks was learning a lot as a player last season, but Day is a madman and just runs off very solo by himself and made a lot of very questionable plays. And to see Clicks now, from what you're saying, actually understand the game really well with another duo is sick, because I think that is some development that we see very rarely. Most top players who make a lot of money in particular, they're like, why would I keep practicing at this? They live off of the good stuff that they did, don't put in as much work, and then end up leaving eventually. Whereas Click seems to have turned that around in a way that He has had a ton of success on his mechanical capabilities. Maybe wasn't so good for a couple seasons and whatnot. But now, if he is a top 5 player in the region every single season, that would be insane work improvement.
Yeah, it's one of the most recent and probably the only example I can think of like a fragger becoming an IGL and doing a really freaking good job of it. There's
Say
probably
pink as well, and guess what? That's
okay,
another Blood X one.
yeah.
So I'm an EU man.
Hey, those two were supposed to play together. I mean, that could have been a
They
whole
were, I know.
different
I'm glad they
story.
didn't though, because for both teams it's worked out. Because
Oh,
Clicks was fourth and was an ass and Pink fifth, or
boom,
were
you're
they
right.
fourth? I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's like they were both top 5 on their respective regions. And I don't know if I don't know if I would have said that going on any East. I don't know how that would have worked if they'd played together on any East. Like who would have fragged? How would that have played out properly? I would Pink probably still would have led, and then Clicks is trying to frag instead. And I don't know if I've seen like Clicks be a good fragger at this level yet.
Yeah, and well, you don't know how the chemistry works. I mean, in
True.
theory, it could work, but there's a lot of players that play together for a couple of weeks and then go their
Hmm.
separate ways. And Pink could have just been stuck in the U.S. and not had a teammate.
Who the biggest example of that one was? That if like a theoretical team that should have been amazing was at the start of this chapter in chapter 3 season 1, Seti playing with Noah Rayleigh. That is like in my mind, I'm like, this is magical, right? Because you have Seti, who's obviously known for like low ground, being one of the best tarper or the best tarper in the game, can lead. And then you just have Noah Rayleigh with him. They have good chemistry. Like that guy frags. And it's funny because I've always looked at Noah as a guy who, if he learned how to frag properly, is on like low and mid ground, unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable if he was like a mustache level fragger. But he always ends up playing height, right? So it didn't work out that well. Chemistry was rubbish. I was so sad about that because I was like, this team has so much potential, but again, chemistry's not there, so it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, and adapting and learning each other's playstyle is huge. That's something
Mm,
over this chapter in particular that I think has been more important because in trios you can kind of get away with not necessarily playing
definitely.
together. And then in duos, it must be done. Like the best duos are going to be playing together, going to be figuring out how they play best together instead of just like wandering through an end game. Um,
I mean, if you watch any winner from any region so far, that's like the number one thing you'll see is that they know when to not be together and they know when to be together. Like Vigil Janus, endgame, always side by side, hip by hip. Same with like that's the one thing I saw about Commandment and Avery. The only time they split is when they're looking for Surge. Like anytime outside of that, they're like within the one tile space every single time. Anytime someone's on a wall, the other one's with them.
Well, to me, they've both played with two of the best IGLs in North America. Avery played
True.
with Booga, Commandment played with Scented, and now they're coming together. I mean, Commandment, besides last season, has been a top 5, top 10 player in North America basically his
Oh yeah.
entire career. And to see him, like, I think he's the best Harper in North America.
He's not tarping though. What the hell?
Yeah, well, okay. So in trios, he used to take over in endgame. So Scented
Yeah,
would
yeah.
lead up until like fifth zone, and then Commandant would take over, and that's how that trio was so good because
Yeah.
you have Scented kind of playing that middleman, and then Commandment leading the way with the tarps. But it's interesting now that he is kind of this all around just mass of
Hmm.
knowledge and skill, which I don't know how or where I was going with that one, but Commandment's really
No,
fucking good.
it's he's crazy. He's been one of my favorite NA East players for a long time, and I was sad when he wasn't doing well this chapter. In all honesty, so to see him come back and win is awesome, but b it's so interesting now that I dive into the gameplay because I watched a lot of their trio gameplay because they were just like they were so good at claiming low ground and they had like a full lockdown of it. And now to watch them play like a completely different play style with Commandment not tarping. There's some games that are on height and stuff like this. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This is a total flip, but it's I'm guessing maybe that's the stretch influence on him. Understanding a different play style of the game, um, in terms of like playing high ground, playing different layers, fragging out, all these different kind of things. So it's cool that he seems to be very moldable as a player.
Yeah, can do whatever is necessary.
There's not many.
Literally.
There's not many of them, I tell you.
Nah, I don't know that I can name someone that can be as malleable.
Maybe Malabuka. Probably not though, because he's not that great of a fragger. He'll tell you that himself.
Yeah, that's another duo I love to watch this season.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And now they're both invited to the Invitational.
Yes.
Let's go. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, I am ecstatic. That was going to be like the biggest, whatever you want to call it, problem with the
Upset. It's an
Invitational.
upset.
Yeah, upset. I mean, to not have arguably the best player of the chapter at the biggest event would have been a huge downfall, especially to have Mustache there and have to play with somebody else. I mean, he played with Bad Sniper during the Saudi event. They did all right. But him and Malabuka, Mustache, Malabuka, just the most exciting team to watch during end games, because the way they dominate a mid ground and just like every single team in their way is just another Elim, and they're going to find a way to either bully you to get away from them or you're going back to the lobby.
Bro, they're the only team that I know does better on a congested layer than a free layer. It's actually crazy when you watch them. They're a bit janky sometimes. You know what? Like they can overcommit, but they are just like they run a train through the rest of the lobby. It's nuts.
Well, the way Malabuka sets up pre-edits like that, like it's not even a thought. It's just, yo, pre-edit this guy, boom, they're already shooting, pre-edits down, and they shoot the same guy. Like, I don't know what the hell it is, but there's two guys in a box, the pre-edit comes through, and they're always shooting I think it's the right guy, just from watching
okay.
their VODs. I may be wrong, but that guy goes down, it's immediately a 2v1, and then they clean it up every time, and it is like such pure end game play that I haven't seen, and I absolutely love, because there's no one else doing it. Like, literally no one else.
And they do it in 4th, 5th zone every single game. Like, their games have like a very rhythm. I to be honest, outside of this FNCS finals, every other time, if it's a cash cup, it's a qualifier, whatever it is, every game's the same. They fight off spawn, which this time they weren't contesting finals, obviously. They fight in 4th or 5th zone, get their mats refreshed, and then they fight everyone in endgame. It's like it's the same game every single time that they do it. And the 4th and 5th zone fights that they take are effortless. It's crazy to watch. It's like you just watch them wipe a team in like 2 seconds, and then that's it over with, because they just do it so fast. The other team's not ready for it yet.
Yeah, it's over before the other team can even react. Whether it be pre-edits or a team's rotating and they just beam one, and then it's like, all right, cool, let's jump on this guy. That's a free elim. It's a beautiful game to watch, and I'm really happy to see them go towards the Invitational. And
I want to see him win that. I was rooting for him this time. I didn't think they would win, because I put my money on Queasy and Vino.
Okay.
I wanted them to, just because like for them, I remember back in Chapter 2 Season 8, they came 7th with Shizo, and that was when they were contesting Benji, Savage, and Andretta off spawn.
Yes.
I remember, that went on for 2 seasons, and it went into being 3 tournaments. It was Grand Royale as well. And I remember watching then and being like, man, these guys are winning about equal off spawn. It was pretty even in terms of like games won. But these games that they're winning, 15 elims, it's like when they win off spawn, I was like, they are doing real good. And I remember at that time just being like, there's a lot of potential in this team. So now to see them like come full circle, 2nd place as a duo, really good. Like, the star boy of the season for Malabuka, and Mustache, just like one of the most crazy fraggers as well. It's like, I want to see them win a tournament. The progression's been crazy.
And Mustache is like that quiet guy that just like kills everybody.
He just smiles. I met them at DreamHack, and like obviously they hadn't really face revealed much then, and it's like they're just like the classic. Their English, like you could speak to them, but like they weren't confident in speaking English that much, so they just smiled, and I was like, oh, these guys, man, they're amazing. They're so cool. They were so nice. So, yeah, I hope they do good. I really do.
Yeah, good kids. Definitely rooting for them as well. And
definitely,
now that we brought up the Invitational, I feel like it's a good time to chat about this. It's probably be the last thing we cover, then I'll let you go. But what are you thinking about the Invitational? Like, just give me your general thoughts on this.
Okay, Raw. I am very excited, right? From multiple perspectives. Obviously, first official in-person LAN, like since World Cup 2019. We're talking 3.5 years of pain between. Is that 3.5? Is my math right?
Yeah.
Jeez, that doesn't even feel like that right. I said that out loud, and I had to look at the calendar to make sure I was right. 3.5 years without an official LAN has been painful, and for me, the excitement is through the roof because I have watched EU versus EU versus EU for 2.5 years analytically. I've seen this. I know what happens. It's like I understand. I'm at the point now when I'm making like analytical videos and stuff. The amount of that gameplay I have to scrub through to be like, this is something new to talk about is crazy, right? So to now have all of these players from other regions and to actually see head to heads against no, I didn't care about being like, oh, which region's the best. I do care about that because I'm in the best one. But like that's not even like the main selling point. It's like, oh, cool. We just have new players, new play styles coming in, a crowd. The players are there in person. It's like just raw excitement is absolutely through the roof.
I'm with you. I am so excited. I mean, like you said, 3.5 years we've been watching this game happen online, and we never get to see the best from each region go up against one another. And it just feels like we're being held back. Like
They
Fortnite is
are.
being held back from getting the best players to compete against the best players. And now we finally have that opportunity, which, oh my freaking God, this is going to be
No.
awesome.
I hope this is the start of like next year to start filling it with lands because I think not only are we as analysts and content creators bored of online stuff only, it's clear like the viewers are bored of this too. Like it's the same thing. I like when I watch Netflix finals, I'm excited. I love watching it. It's great, but there's always that overwhelming feeling of like I've seen this before, and it gets more exciting when towards the end of the games where I'm at the edge of my seat watching who's going to win. But as the games progress, I'm like, I know this. I've seen this. I know exactly what's happening here. And we need a change up. That's not a change up in game mode. That's none of these stupid fucking things that people always talk about that all make the game exciting. No, you just need I think we need like an overhaul of the online system the way it is, to be way more exciting.
Yeah, we can get into that too in a second because I know you have thoughts on that. But the
I have many
invitational,
thoughts on that.
the invitational in itself, I really hope that there is proper lead up in the storytelling
Definitely.
for the invitational because that's a huge miss if that is not executed and executed properly. I mean, I always liken UFC to the way Fortnite does things, or UFC could be an example for the way Fortnite does things because they are so good at telling stories of their fighters. Before every match, you're getting like a 3-minute idea of who this person is and why the hell you should even care what they're doing. And we have now 3 months to do that for this
Yeah.
entire lobby. And if we don't do that, then we have not done our job properly. And you and I, as creators, like we can do
Hmm.
it ourselves, but inherently it won't get the same value that it should from us as opposed to if it's done from the Fortnite side, like the
Definitely.
actual channels. So that's one thing that I think could make or break this. Obviously, the games will be awesome, but
Hmm.
from a Fortnite fan perspective and someone that wants to see the game succeed, we need that kind of content in lead up to this massive event.
I agree. And like you need to satisfy the casuals in that way, like they care about Mongrel. And Mongrel is not playing the game. They care about Benji Fishy. Benji's gone. It's great that they've invited Savage, from that perspective, so that you've at least, and there's Boogers there. You've got like a couple big names that like the casual audience who haven't watched, say, in like 2 years, and they know their personalities, they know their favorites and things like that. They've got players to latch onto, which is great, but we need to give people a reason to care about like the Joe and the Ziandis of the world. Where I know Ziandi, for example, has a massive following in Romania. Like anytime you watch any competition that has him involved, like the chat's always just like there's a bunch of Romanian supporters. It's really sick to see. But like outside of that country, we need more people to care about. So I'm just using him as an example. Him, Mix and Arter, like a more unknown team who's qualified from EU now that I didn't know much about before. I know Arter, but not about Mixon before going into the season. Just a side note, that guy's crazy. And things like that where it's like we have the best and the best from every region going there, and there needs to be reasons to care about those other people. Like I'm definitely going to go into a lot of the other regions. I know I'm going to start speaking to like coaches from like Brazil, Asia. I'll speak to like other smaller regions that players I just don't know that much to try and get that so I can put that in videos and content and stuff like that as well. Because I think that is really important. There's going to be a lot of players that people don't know. It'd be cool if everyone knew what actually mattered and what doesn't.
Well, even I mean, think of someone like Tayson. What do you know
Mm,
about him other than he's just won everything in the game?
it's true. It's very
Nothing.
true.
Like you know nothing about one of the best players of all time in Fortnite. And that
Yeah.
to me is crazy. But this is an awesome opportunity to put him on that pedestal of like, this is one of our goats. Here is why everyone else should recognize this. And here's also who he is as a person.
Hmm. I know that his dad's awesome. I met his dad at DreamHack. He was a good lad. He was a good legend. But you're right. It's like we need even those big names. You do need reasons to care about those. And with Tayson, you can give him a bunch of backstory. But similarly, you open the goat dialogue. We're gonna see him against Booga at a LAN in-person event. It's like now you have like just cool storylines like that, which is very speculative prior to this. But now you can actually open up in person, actually going head to head. Do a
Yeah.
1v1 between them. There you go. That should be the decider. Just like realistic 1v1s. Booga versus Tayson.
No epic whale.
And Epic Whale. Chuck him in there too. I'm an Epic Whale fanboy.
Nice. I just had to throw that in there because like he's recently been thrown in that conversation a lot, which
Definitely.
maybe deserving, maybe not. I don't know. That's
I think
not.
it is. When I did a GOAT list last year, I'm trying to remember when that was. I think it was before Booga started winning FNCSs, or maybe it was just after he won one of them last year.
Okay.
Champ 2 season 7-ish time, and I put Tayson as my GOAT. I still think Tayson's my GOAT, to be honest, over Booga. But we'll see. I think I had Epic Whale in fifth or fourth. I can't remember. I had Arkham above him at the time because I felt like Arkham's placements were a bit better. But obviously now things have changed a bit since Arkham's obviously now quit the game and he's just hadn't performed as well. I think Epic Whale is only reason that he's not in the GOAT debate is because he's on Any West. Like, if he had done even similar stuff on another region, in particular with having World Cup placements, been around for this long, like having the longevity that he has is unbelievable. Like, that guy has to be in the GOAT discussion.
Yeah, I think he's won the most FNCSs of anyone.
6, yeah. He's won 6, and he's won, well, he was 5th in World Cup duos, I think. I think he did well in solos. Can't remember. I think he maybe did poo. I can't even remember that.
I think it
Won
was
obviously the
just
Saudi event.
solos.
Yeah, he did. He was top 5 or it was solos. He did good in one of them. I can't remember which one it was. 6 FNCS wins on top of that. Like, and it seems like now I don't want to say his motivation's not as high, but it's like he's just like kind of cruising a bit. That's the way I look at him now. And he still won the Saudi event. I think if he fully grinded everything, like he would just win every FNCS, and it's West, but. Similarly, you got to put some respect on that man's name.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. Like, he's in the conversation. I don't know that
Yeah.
he wins the conversation. I think.
I'm with you. I think the Invitational would be telling.
Yeah.
To see.
And he'll get to play with his own teammate. And he did it with Malibuca for this Saudi event, which is, impressive in its own right, but also not as impressive as like you're now doing it with your guy against everyone with their guy.
Reed told me that both Rex and Arkham won't be going. So, even though they're on the list,
that's breaking
he messaged
news.
me saying that. Yeah, I don't know if that's. Well, I know Arkham's not because he's not there, but he said, I don't know if Rex isn't going to go. That might have changed since because they're going to be playing together. So, it'll be Reed and Epic, as obviously that is the duo now. So, that'll be very interesting to see as well. Because he went to the, what do you call it, LAN? The small Dallas one for DreamHack. Mm-hmm. He didn't go to. He's not been to any of the other ones, so we'll get to see him as well at a big LAN. See how he'll do. We know Epic will be great. How will Reed do in the LAN environment, which is nerve-wise, all of these kind of things. He doesn't seem like a very nervous person, so I think he'll do good, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, you never know. I was just about to mention something. Oh, Arkham and Rex.
Yeah,
that is interesting because they got invites. I went through their profiles because I saw them on like those invite lists, and I didn't see them post anywhere about being invited. And then I found out that it was secondhand. Somebody told people that they did get invited, but now
They probably didn't log on to the game to check. They probably don't even know. I think Reed said that I don't know. I don't know the procedure from the players, but I think you have to fill in like a sheet once you were invited, or I don't know if they got an email or whatever it was.
right.
I don't know the process. Apparently, he said they haven't even filled that out. So I don't know if they've been invited, but they haven't accepted. But that's the idea I got. To be honest for you, if I was one of those players, I would go. I would collect my money. Like if I came last, I'm getting. I don't know what the prize pool is, but say it was even the same as Saudi. Like that was what, like 5K for last, 2.5K split. You get a free trip to go meet all your Fortnite buddies. Like for me as an analyst, I don't want that because I don't want players who haven't done well and who aren't playing the game to go because it's just kind of rubbish from a viewer's perspective, and especially kind of ruins a bit of their legacy as players in my eyes as well. Just let them go, you know, like if they've quit, they've quit. Just let them quit. But similarly, you know, if I was them, bro, I'm going. That's some free money, free trip. Like why not?
Yeah, I agree with you. From their perspective, I don't see why you would decline the invite, but from
Exactly.
my perspective, please don't go. Like
Yeah, if they have not been playing and they are quitting, because I know
they
I
have
don't know about
not.
Rex. I know that Arkham's fully quit. He tweeted that yesterday. But I don't know about. I know Rex hasn't been playing, but I don't know if he's fully quit yet. You know, so it's hard to say.
He hasn't posted on Twitter that he quit.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's the deal done.
yeah, but even before the Saudi event, or at the Saudi event, I talked to Arkham and Falconer, and like, yeah, we haven't played the game in weeks. Like,
Yeah,
I just
yep.
started playing in lead up to this event, so every other team I feel like is capable of performing well, not necessarily doing a top 10, but can compete at this event. If you have two players that aren't playing the game, I mean, we have 3 months to get there. They could get
They
back
could.
to where they
I
need
mean,
to be.
those two players are nuts as well. Like I think like it's crazy that they are actual like they could be top players in the event had they been A with their teammate at the time and also like continued to practice. But like that seems to not be the case. So yeah, so we'll see if we see them there. We'll see if they make a tweet, see if they're just like debating, thinking about it, see what they're gonna do. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to see it if they have quit because I just want the best to be there, and so we can actually open some interesting conversations. I don't want like some team to like get landed on by West players who aren't playing anymore, don't care, or you know any griefing situations to go down if that was going to happen, anything like that.
Well, and they'll have to land somewhere, so inevitably, like, it will cause issues.
Exactly.
Nonetheless, all right. Now, very important, totally relevant, and going to hold you to it. Who's going to win the FNCS Invitational right now? And
Ooh.
I'm not
Okay.
letting you get away from
Let
answering that
me. No.
question.
That's a great question. Let me open the list. Who made? I think Zenko made one.
Zenko
I just
has
wanna,
the most
yeah,
up-to-date one.
let me have a swatch through here for a second. Okay, I'm just looking at the Europe players. I'm just gonna pick one of them. Okay, so I'm just gonna presume. Obviously, some of the teams don't have like their full names there. Uh, I'm gonna just assume anyone I say is gonna be unconned because screw talking about that. I think. Right, let me put a list out. Tayson and Chapix, assuming it's going to be Tayson Chapix, not Tayson Thomas HD playing together. Definitely. Bugamiro, definitely from NA East. I think a wild card pick, Epic Whale and Reet could do good and win if they like had a crazy day, but I'm not necessarily convinced. I'm going to put them like top 10, but I wouldn't necessarily going to win, but I think that would be like an odd pick.
Okay.
I would like to say Seti and Kami, but like this season's not been good for them at all. It's been a bit obviously like when you look at the actual numbers, it looks good, but I think this has been like the most flawed they've been as a team. I think since I'm in on probably the last year. I think they've had a lot of issues, which is very unsurprising from that kind of team. So maybe they'll. I mean, they work really hard, so I think they might be able to fix it by the time comes.
They also
Um,
have a lot of teams that are going to play clashing play styles. Like a Cold Scented is
yeah.
also going to look to dominate that low ground. Acorn Edgy do that same thing. Obviously, like there is space up until like 8th, 9th zone for multiple teams to do it, but only one team's going to win.
They hadn't really been playing as much low ground this season, but maybe that's because that's why they're more flawed. So I think in duos, like low ground's just been weird. Like there's not, I'm in EU, there's not been like a low ground team. I would say, yeah, like stay away from these guys, like there has been in trios. There's been a lot of people who play like Satan Kami. They predominantly do go down to low, but it's not like every game. Oh, they're on the low ground. They played a lot of mid, so it's weird. I think I'm just gonna go with like some of the basic answers. Tayson Chapix, Bugamiro, gotta be the two. But there's a lot of teams I think easily could win. Mustache Malabuka, they're there. Uh, Vadil after this season looked crazy good with Janice. Scrolling down, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think any of the Brazil, Middle East, OCE, or Asia teams are gonna win.
Who
But
do you
I've not
think does the
watched them as much.
best? If you had to
I
pick a
would
team from
say
like an off region,
Fazin. I don't know how you pronounce his name. And
Magazine.
Keto. Yeah, yeah. I
PH
think
Zin for us American or English
I know
speakers.
it makes it hard for us. I think he's, from what I've seen, is absolutely insane. Uh, like crazy performances, and the amount of times they've won, especially recently or towards the end of last chapter. But again, I don't know that region that well, so it's hard for me to say that specifically. I do think Volks and Looter from OCE, if they're grinding, can be scary because when Looter came to NA East, he was ass, but he also just didn't play, didn't grind, didn't attempt. He did like the classic player from another region moves to big region, doesn't play at all, and is bad. Similar to the way that Vortex and Suns did when they moved to Germany to play in EU. Like they just came here and they just didn't play. That was it. Like they moved across country, didn't practice. Vortex played a little bit more than Suns did, and then they moved
Orgs,
back.
the orgs have
Yeah.
to love that.
Oh yeah, they must, right? Fly them internationally, get them here, visas, all that stuff sorted, accommodation, yada yada. So, but since they went back, Looter's been crazy. Volks is like one of the best players in the world, hands down. So I think they could actually do really good as well. And I think that would be a cool story, especially given they are from such a small region, the smallest region. So it'd be cool to see them do well, especially since like OC's got a history of doing good in lands as well.
Yeah. I would like to see at least like one of the off regions perform
Mhm.
well. I think one of the Brazil teams will do it. I would probably
Agreed.
go PH Zin with you if I had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
pick. Based on what I saw in Saudi, I don't think any of the Middle East teams are going to be
Yeah,
good
I
enough.
also similarly in DreamHack, like I don't think any of the. I think there was four, maybe three Middle East players that were there, and none of them did well. I don't think any of them qualified for the build finals and it's solos, of course. But similarly, though, I don't think any of those players. I don't think any of those either at DreamHack or the Saudi were like recent FNCS winners, though, from memory. So that might be a little bit different. I think a lot of them were just like players who are good on the overall like lifetime Gamepedia PR. Basically, it seemed like rather than here's the current best Middle East players.
Right.
Although I think Spy is just placed second, or did he win? I can't remember. No, Rapid and Halon won. Either way, I think it'll be interesting to see how the top teams from that region do. Now that it's actually we're getting the cream of the crop coming through from the smaller regions because it's basically just like whoever won FNCS.
Yeah. And you have to be good. And I would assume we've played pretty much the same meta all year.
Mm-hmm.
So please don't make massive changes and turn all these players into just
Well, get
totally
rid of the
different people.
grapple gloves and then we'll be happy.
Uh,
And because like it's so boring for me watching like when I'm switching to commandments games, right? I'm like, okay, so their mid game's not that good. And then I'm watching end game and I'm like, there's a grapple glove team. There's not as much to learn in terms of like an analytical perspective. So I'm like, right. If there's no grapple gloves though, now you got to think a lot more. And most teams weren't like that. But there are just some games I watch where I get like, oh, they got grapple gloves, they got 10 uses, they got good mats. It's just, I know that they're just going to do well already.
yeah, front side box up, and then nice. You got a top 10 without doing anything.
Yeah. So I'd rather that not be here next season. We'll see if it actually is or not. And I think then you're going to start to see. I mean, I was going to say you're going to start to see smart people qual. It's the same. We've seen that already. Everyone's already doing really well. It's super smart. So
Yeah, that's why I think Bugan Mira will do really well. They've never relied on any kind of like movement other than cars when they're in the game, which everyone had when they were using. So Granted, if we get a no
How do you
movement meta.
think they're going to do against some of the EU players? Because obviously, their play style is very Elim heavy. Obviously, they're consistent in their play style, but like they like they're always like the highest average Elims per game in a finals. How do you think that'll fare going up against like the
Bugha and
rest of the
Miro are?
world? Yeah,
Is
they
that?
always frag out. They're 3.9 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They did. I don't like. They don't frag out with
1.7.
like 10
Yeah, yeah,
Elim
yeah.
games, right? They're
No, no,
getting
no.
4, 5, 6, 7, and it's
Mhm.
just consistent. Which I think is like the biggest thing. But the reason why they win essentially is like, they are both amazing solo players and they will play
Mhm.
endgame together really well. But when one of them goes down, it's typically only one of them. They normally never go down together.
Interesting.
And then Bugha, sneaks out, gets like 5, 10 extra more points, or Miro does the same. And they just clutch up those points every single game where I think their mid game is almost as flawless as it can get. Like being an edge
Interesting.
map team
Yeah.
where you're having to rotate north almost every game, that could have been a massive problem for a
Mhm.
lot of teams. But then they understand how to rotate and get surge,
Mhm.
especially with the changes. Or this FNCS, they just, hey, you're contesting us. We're gonna go land off to the side, bully you while you're trying to do shit, and then we're gonna run away. And we have surge and you don't. So thanks for taking
Interesting.
our
Okay.
drop spot. I think they will play very well. Obviously, they are two of the best players in the region
Mhm.
for a reason. Bugha has that understanding of layering in endgame, and I think he just always is putting himself and his team in a good position.
Interesting.
Rarely, if ever, do you see them getting bullied in endgame, but then we haven't seen them have to deal with a Malabuka or Mustache in
Yeah.
endgame.
Levin, I've got 2 points about that. Firstly, Levin always taught me. He said something like 2 seasons ago, or maybe last season, that opened my eyes, and it just made me think about, especially watching other regions a lot, where it said, could they do this play, whatever it is, if and not be pre-edited by Malibu and Mustache? That's like the metric I use for like if a play works now, where I'm like, would Malibu and Mustache kill you while you're trying to do that or not? A lot of times it's no, that would not work. So it's always in, especially there was like a lot of, I can't remember if it was finals or it was one of the qualifiers I was watching or semis. One NA East game where there was a player on low ground just running around for like, I think it was one of the semifinals or maybe even like an earlier round when they're running around and didn't get shot once for like 3 zones. I can't remember who it was. I was like, how has this person not died yet? Like, there's like, why has not one person looked this way? Anyway, the point I'm making. I want to see actually how they play. And I'm going to jump in the VODs from Bug and Miro before the season ends. And hopefully the VODs will probably disappear then. So I want to see how they play because I remember very vividly watching back in the end of chapter 2 season 8 when Bug and Miro were doing really well. I remember watching Buga's tarping in particular, and like he was not putting them into good positions at all. Like he was more. I mean, obviously, this was almost probably a year ago now, so hopefully he's developed a lot in that time. But he was always like there was tons of tarping fundamentals that he was missing out on. Like, firstly, he was just fighting everyone while he was tarping. I'm like, you're in trios, man. Like, calm down. You have Miro and Muzz at that time because it was before he switched to Jukes. I was like, just let them do it. Like he would stop tarping to like shoot people at the same time. I was like, you have a priority, which is to keep moving here. Obviously, it might be a play style. I need to check how they play in duos, but that was one thing. There was a lot of like never found dead side, never tarp deeper into zone transitions. There was a lot of stuff because I was just watching like Seti tarp and then I watched Buga tarp and I was like, there's a lot of differences here of like what I would say relatively basic tarping mistakes. So I hope that those things have been cleaned up, and I would expect so since they just keep placing so well as well.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't play a ton, which is the problem to be
Mm,
able to clean up those fundamentals. So while I think they have gotten better on the layering, I don't know
mm,
that like the overall play style has been cleaned up to your point
interesting.
or Levin's point of will they be able to do that with Malibuka and Mustache on your wall? Probably not
Yeah.
most of the time.
Similarly, though, I think those are two guys who, if Malibu and Mustache are on their wall, like if they trade 50-50, like I'm sure they're gonna hit like an equal amount of shots. It's like one of the strong things about Malabuga Mustache is the fact that they hit like every bullet, but like
Hmm.
So does Mira and Booga. So they're at least more even on that front.
Yeah. Well, the problem though is it happens before you know it. Like
That's
that
true.
pre-edit is down, and you're getting shot before you're like, "Yo, there's somebody on our wall, chief."
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, I'm just dead. All
I
right.
am worried about the players who don't play a lot though, especially coming towards this. Like, I feel like there are players who are the top of their region who are just cruising, and I think when they come across some of the best players in the world, they're going to be very surprised.
Yeah. Well, especially because EU currently has the best practice in the
Hmm.
world, and they are the best region right now. So, whew, that's not looking good. But we'll see. I mean, there are players on NA East. Just looking at it, like Fatch and Pam Stu play a ton. Duke Clicks play a
Yeah,
ton. Uh, can't say the same for Command and Avery, although they were scrimming right after they just won FNCS, so that could be
good.
good. But I mean, Cold Scented, Acorn Edgy, all guys that play a bunch, and then I can't necessarily say the same for everyone else. So
Interesting.
we will see. I may be wrong. They could just be playing where I'm not looking. Now, I said this was going to be the last one, but we can go into one more thing that we
Yeah, hit me
brought
with it.
up.
Hit me with it.
You want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me with it.
All right. So you mentioned the online qualifier system for
Yeah,
FNCS.
yeah.
Um, talked about it a couple times on the podcast,
Mhm.
but would love to get your thoughts and maybe potential improvements to make it better.
Yeah, so I'm not a man with answers for this. I'm a man with complaints. Uh, I do have some solutions. So I think the biggest problem, there's multiple problems. I think Shio brought up a really good one to me was that as say just an individual season, you see the best players less and less. For most esports, it's you'll see, the bottom teams will get knocked out, and you'll just see, if it was like a elimination bracket or double elo bracket, whatever it is, like you're seeing the top teams play more and more as it comes to finals. But in Fortnite, like, Tayson, Chapix, Queasy, Vino, the Malibu Mustache, the guys who qualified in qualifier one, we didn't see them for like a month. And then you see them in finals. So immediately, like, and as soon as you see a lobby that has top tier players in it, you know the difference. It's way more exciting to watch than like semifinals day three. So that's a big problem to start with. Secondly, it's the same thing every season. And I'm not saying that's bad because like some sort of repetition is good, but it's too much, man. We've had 14 FNCS. Like I've seen this. I know what happens. Even though there's small changes, all this kind of stuff, it's just the same thing. And then there's nothing new, nothing like innovative, nothing that makes it more interesting to watch. And then you add on top of that the fact that nothing matters season to season. Like one season's over, forget it. Doesn't matter. Start a new season again. Like my notes are so difficult to carry over season to season because it's just like new teams, new players, all this kind of stuff. So it just in my mind, in my eyes, like I think the way that it would work the best would be, well, I say the best. I just a simple fix. Who knows what the actual best would be? Would be like an online season and then an in-person season. So say look back to like World Cup and how that worked, where there was say 10 weeks of qualifiers. That's a lot. Say we had 4 weeks of qualifiers in one season, and like in depending on which region it was, say top two in EU or top three, I don't know, wherever it was, in that qualifies you to next season's LAN event, right? And then say in the smaller regions, maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe they have 4 slots or something like that, and it's just they win each week. So every single week a win matters, and you're not taking out 5 of the best teams week one. You're taking out one team or something like that. Next week comes, it's the same thing, but if you have it like a 4 week or a 4 round qualifier like it is now. So like the normal FNCS qualifier you've got, rather than just do that, but on that Sunday you have top team qualifies for the LAN next season, and then the next season is a LAN, and it matters season to season. It's not as repetitive. Prize pool can be put into both, whatever it is, I don't know. And then that LAN season, you just have like more interesting cash cups, maybe bigger prize pools then. So it's like you have your FNCS qualifier season, in-person season with more interesting online events for players who can't play it. Do that twice a year, done.
Okay. I'm so two online, two in person, and
Yeah,
the
it's
online lead
much
into
less.
the in
Yeah,
person. Okay, I
that's
can
like
see
a
that.
very simplistic way, I would say, of fixing it. Because it's very easy to like oversaturate with things, with whatever tournaments it may be. And you know, I think especially with the amount of money it's given out, the amount of players that there are, I think like 2 international events a year cool, sorted. Maybe there's more, maybe there's less. I don't know what it is, but like that qualification for me, where it's like you have half a year each time with each team, is a much better than one season, then they all split up.
Yeah, when I think one of the pitfalls of this invitational has been you don't really know who gets invited. Like you kind of
Yeah,
just gotta perform the best that you can and hope that was good enough. And we've seen some invites all over the place for this one. Granted, it's
and yeah,
been
yeah.
like, however, but if it was a structured thing where you know going into the season, if I do this in FNCS Online, I'm going to be able to go to the in person or whatever it may be. Would definitely build more hype. I also think that like the actual format that we have of FNCS, like you mentioned, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and then we have finals, which is the best. It's like
Yeah,
the first day and the last day are the best, and then it just
yeah.
gets worse in between. Because let's be honest, who cares about semifinals three?
Not me. I know
Like,
it's like the best. It's funny. It's like the best format we've had, but it's not good.
yeah, it's good for the players. It's not necessarily good for someone watching or someone to
Mm,
care because I'm trying to think. I'm sure there is one outlier of a team that did well on like a semifinals day 3 into
mm,
finals, but for the most part, they are the bottom feeders of those finals
yeah.
lobbies, and it's irrelevant as to who qualifies. They're just maybe going to contest someone, and that will be
Hmm.
the most relevance they have. Which I feel bad saying, but it's true. Like,
No, it's
sorry.
true. I mean, it is true. It is completely true. Sometimes you have good semifinals players, teams. Absolutely. Like last season, was it Hayne and Queasy? No, they won. No, it was it Aqua and Vino. Last some fucking season, a winner came from semifinals. I can't remember which one it was. So there is good teams who come from that. Like Joe and Ziandi this season came from semifinals day two, and they placed fourth. So it's like there is a lot of good teams who come through it, but it's similarly just kind of boring. And I just we especially like it shows in viewership. Right, if you put FNCS in a video title for like the last year, it will not do well. I can tell you that right now. Like it's because like the casual audience doesn't see FNCS as something interesting. It's not something that's like, oh, I need to watch this, and it should be because it is like watching finals is amazing. Like I
Yeah,
love like that finals environment every single time is awesome. But yet, like that's not been translated over to the bigger audience. Like Fortnite audience is unreal. Like the size of like the casual game is so big, and there's so much potential, but they're not being hooked in by the term FNCS or just what's happening right now.
yeah. I think my best way to improve like FNCS,
Yeah,
say
hit me with it.
nothing changes, it's online again. Um, it just has to be a seasonal thing. Like you play
Mm,
5 weeks of the season, and let's say 45 duos advance, and we have 1 day of semifinals. That way, we're not just like wringing this thing dry with as
mm,
much semifinals as we can get. And then whoever the most consistent teams were, there's no weekly qualifiers. You have to be consistent over the 5 weeks. You move to finals. And then we have 5 more teams, or however many, we could call it nine
mm,
more teams, however, pick a number. They qualify through the semifinals, and then we get finals. That way, there is build up. Each week is important. There's going to be those storylines that continue from week to week. It's not like, oh, the best team qualified week 1, so then other people went to their drop spot, they
mm,
qualified, and no, we're having everybody play against the same people pretty much week to week. That would obviously be ideal, and then we
like a
usually,
pure series points, basically.
yes,
Yeah, like a couple, like 4 or 5 weeks of series points leaderboard. I think that would be better. I don't know if it would be as exciting. I don't know if it's not exciting right now, so I can't really say as exciting. But like, yeah, I think that would be better because I'd rather watch Tayson Chapix, every week rather than missing them after week one. You're like, ugh, okay, they're gone. There just need to be maybe you had like, what would be cool is maybe you gain like series points for every win as well.
hmm.
So
Yeah,
like
so
if you win a game, it matters more in terms of like series points overall.
that would
There we
be a
go.
good idea. Like
Yeah, there we go.
5 series points per victory royale or some shit
Mm,
like that. We could
I just
also
came up with some. Mm.
actually have the match point be relevant, and
True.
like not just have it be there as a rule that's never going to be touched.
I definitely agree with that. I think the biggest issue I have with match point is that it wasn't tried and it wasn't tested. Like my feedback coming into this season that we just had was put it to 300 points and go for it. Like if you're gonna try it, you have to try it. Like right now, it's not a match point; it's a mercy rule. You have to just like if you hit that threshold, the game just ends. Like the whole point of a match point system is that it gets more intense. It build. Oh, they hit 300 points threshold. Will they win a game or break over that? They should literally just make it. They hit 300 points, then you have to win a game, right? And that's what they should have done for this season's finals. And because if it was rubbish and awful, cool, they've tried it. What they're gonna do now, I'm sure, is just leave this match point format in, and like they're never gonna have tested it properly, and they may adjust it for like a LAN event or something, and it might go horribly wrong and be really boring instead of just like seeing what happens if they do it. Like across the last 2.5 years was like if you're doing everything online, I feel like by this point we should have the perfect format, right? Like our FNCS format should be amazing because we've had so many different iterations and attempts to test it, figure out, change it, try new things, see what it is. But we essentially have like the same thing we did in Chapter 2 Season X or Chapter 1 Season X. It's like 3 years of FNCS and we have very close to the same format. So the match point annoys me because I'm like, there's something that could have had big potential if we tested it to see what it was like.
Yeah, it's upsetting that it was just thrown into the rules and then nobody would have actually won a tournament with the match point format.
Well,
Teams
here's
would
the thing,
have
right?
won game 12
Mm-hmm.
and won the tournament anyway, and then match point format win. But like that's irrelevant, you know.
Imagine NA East, Pamsu and Fanch, won game 12. That would have been a tournament win for them rather than placing third because they won that final game. If it was just 300 points and win a game after that, like they would have won that game. That would have been unbelievable. That would have been such a good finish. Could you imagine how amazing that was?
Yeah,
But
you
no.
have Bugamiro go down, then you have the commandment clutch, and then you have these
Mm-hmm.
guys win the game on top. Like I was watching it on the plane on the way home,
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there screaming. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" But
yeah. It
yeah,
would have been amazing.
it would
That would have
have.
been like the best finish. And you know what? Maybe match point would have just been rubbish. Maybe it would have been uncompetitive, but we would have tested it, we would have tried it, and we would know. Now we're going into like a fourth season with match point in the rules when it means nothing. And it's like, is it good? Will it be fun to watch? Like, I don't know, because we've not tested it as a tournament.
Well, in this season, more than any, we've reduced the amount of elim points and left the
Hmm.
match point format at the same thing. So it's like really just laughable how out of the question this thing is.
Just
Um,
forgotten about.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
and that annoys me. So yeah.
um, we're an hour and a half in. Jeez.
Let's go. Easy.
Yeah. You said it was gonna be a long one. I was
It
appreciated.
could be much longer.
Nah, I'll let you go here. You're a
I
busy man. I know you got some YouTube bangers to be working on.
do.
So,
Gotta be sifting through Asia VODs right now. Yeah.
nice. All right. So, closing out, got a couple of questions for you. First of all, pick
Yeah.
your favorite Fortnite skin. I think I know the answer to this one.
Big Blue Blob.
Nice. Do that.
Forget
Okay.
its name. Ripley versus Sludge Blue. There you go.
What a name. What a name. And
I
then,
know.
where can people find you? What are you going to be up to in the coming weeks?
At Reisshub on every social media you could possibly imagine because kids, that's how you do branding, I tell you. Choose a name that's weird enough so that you can find you on every social media and that's available. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be just banging out YouTube videos, trying to get 2 a week done on one analytical, one storyline style video a week up until the invitational. And then I'll probably take a break because I'll have to do lots more work and study and fly, hopefully, if I'm going to. We'll see. So we'll find out all that stuff. The Resub YouTube channel, home of all interesting Fortnite competitive videos.
There you go. You heard it from him. Reisshub on Twitter, YouTube. That's pretty much your two, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, I have all the rest of them, but they don't really matter. If you want to
All right.
watch me lift, you can go on my Instagram.
All right. We'll see him get big, put up some weight on Instagram. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Reese. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks for having me, man, as always.
Oh yeah, dude, it's awesome getting to talk Fortnite with you and learn about what you do. So I appreciate you joining me, and I hope y'all at home enjoyed this. If you did, you can send me a DM on Twitter, somebody's gun. If you didn't, you can send me a DM and complain on Twitter. That works too. I may or may not open it. Now, thank you guys. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.